Welcome back to Ronald Davin Recaps. Today I will show you an action, horror, science fiction film from 2019 titled Captive State. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. In the nearby future, Earth is being invaded by aliens. Cities all over the world are losing power and supplies while the governments are beginning to accept complying with the invaders is their only chance to survive. In Chicago, the Drummond family is attempting to flee the city by car. The father is a detective, so when a police officer stops them, he reminds him of the orders they've received, but the father refuses to follow those orders. So he drives back and tries to find a different escape route while saying they need to regroup and fight back. The road is suddenly blocked by aliens who vaporize both parents but leave the Drummond kids alive. Years later, the world has submitted to the aliens' governance, and they now are our legislators. Humans are conscripted to build closed zones, underground habitats for the aliens with access only granted to and by high government officials. The army has been demobilized, and people are now obliged to help the aliens exploit Earth's natural resources. Everyone is also implanted with an alien bug inside their necks so they can be tracked at all times. The gap between the rich and the poor is greater than ever. Police crackdowns have widespread, deportations are now off-planet, and digital communication has been shut down. Chicago has been walled off and is under martial law, so a resistance group called Phoenix has tried to launch an attack on the closed zone, but they failed. However, they've not given up on their mission yet. Unaware that he's being spied on by Commander William Mulligan, Gabriel Drummond begins his daily routine after spending the night being intimate with his girlfriend Rula. As he leaves his apartment, he meets with his friend Georges, and together they rush out of the neighborhood before some rats can tell on them or the alien drones that follow Gabriel from the sky can see them do anything suspicious. Meanwhile, Mulligan is looking at the newspaper and finding a seemingly normal ad that uses the Phoenix Group's logo, which clearly upsets him. After circling it with a red marker, he takes his car and visits a brothel with the same logo on its walls. There he meets with Priscilla Scott, who gives him a box and tries to be intimate with him, but he says he isn't able to do it, so he can leave now that he has what he's come for. He goes to the police headquarters, where he has a whole board of clues that say the Phoenix resistance group has not been neutralized, contrary to what the public has been told. Mulligan tells his partner Kermode that Phoenix has gone underground and is now communicating through the classifieds. But Kermode remains skeptical and thinks Mulligan is chasing ghosts. In an abandoned building, two members of Phoenix meet, Charles Rittenhouse and Patrick Ellison. Charles shows Patrick the classified and tells him training is over and the team will go in tonight as per number one's orders. Afterward, Patrick meets with a masked informant to give him the news, saying he trusts him. Gabriel arrives at his job in the Data Reclaim Center, where he must take memory cards from phones, upload the information they have to the central system, and then destroy them. After noticing a co-worker is stealing some of those cards, he takes a lunch break, where he meets with a member of Phoenix that hands him a hand-rolled cigarette containing secret information when they're leaving work hours later. The woman that stole the cards is found thanks to the bug in her neck and taken away by the special force. After seeing an alien ship fly away above the sea, Gabriel meets with Georges inside an abandoned building where they're hiding a boat they can use to escape the city undetected. Georges has also acquired some guns, which angers Gabriel because they could put them in some serious trouble. As they argue and fight over the cigarette, they hear a police siren arrive, so Georges runs away and Gabriel tries to do the same after hiding the gun. But Mulligan manages to find him anyway. He makes Gabriel enter his car and gives him some food, mentioning his dad used to be his partner, so he has a responsibility to that. After failing to obtain information about Phoenix from him, he lets Gabriel go as he reminds him to choose the right side. Afterward, Gabriel goes to see Raul Casillas to sell the cigarette, but instead, he's thrown inside a van and put on a collar to block the tracker bug. Raul takes Gabriel to Wicker Park, the area where Phoenix's first attack happened, and tells him to enter an abandoned building. In there, his brother and Phoenix member Raphael Drummond is waiting for him because he isn't dead as the news said. He has removed his bug and is living off the grid now, allowing him to continue working on Phoenix's plans with more freedom. He gives Gabriel money in exchange for the cigarette and turns down the offer to escape together because he wants to follow their dad's wish to regroup and fight back. After sending Gabriel away, Raphael goes to another room and puts the cigarette paper on a carrier pigeon that flies away before he burns every paperwork clue he had with him and shaves off his beard. continues to spy on Gabriel as he goes back to his apartment to gather his things and tell his girlfriend they need to leave because there's going to be some trouble. Since Rula stays skeptical, he explains that he saw his brother and there's a plan brewing. He also tells her about the boat. All this is heard by Mulligan. Rule suspiciously insists on making him stay, so Gabriel decides to leave her behind and escape on his own, but as soon as he makes it outside, Mulligan is waiting for him. This makes Gabriel realize Rula has been helping the officer spy on him all along. Gabriel runs away and takes narrow pathways or climbs roofs so that Mulligan must depend on the tracker to follow him. When he enters an abandoned parking lot, the noise he makes wakes up a bunch of alien drones that start chasing him, so Gabriel enters the guard booth and puts on the blocking collar Rawl had given him. This instantly causes the drones and Mulligan to lose his location. While Mulligan updates his board at the station, Patrick receives the pigeon with the information and takes it to Ivan Leviev, a hacker that uses this intel to access Chicago's surveillance system and the deployment patterns of law enforcement units. Target is Deputy Mayor Robert Watts, who will be assisting a unity rally at Soldier Field that night. Now the plan is officially starting. Patrick gives a kid a coin to call Charles and tell him to post one more ad in the newspaper. From there, the message starts spreading to the people chosen to be the drivers during the mission. The first driver, Michael Posner, sees the ad and shows it to a radio DJ that plays a special song, which is heard on the radio by the second driver, Evan Hayes. Evan takes out his dog for a walk and leaves it outside the garage belonging to the third driver and Rawl's co-worker, Anita Holder-Lynn. The three drivers visit Harrison Ma, a surgeon that removes the bugs from their bodies and puts them on rats that are released afterward. After the procedures are done, Patrick visits morgue attendant Nelson McCauley, who gives him bugs from deceased people and special plates for the drivers to keep the bugs inside their mouths. Meanwhile, Raphael meets with priest Edward Gunn, and together they take the last church chalices to a woman that accepts them in exchange for an alien explosive device she salvaged from a wrecked ship. It can become invisible and is made of organic materials so scanners won't detect it, but first they need to fix it. Thankfully, Patrick knows how, and he successfully gets it to work before handing it to Raphael, who will be in charge of taking the explosive into the stadium. After the drivers put the bug pellets in their mouths and everyone is given a suicide pill to swallow in case of capture. The group leaves together with their last coordinator, drag queen Daniel Larkin. When they make it to the stadium, Raphael, Edward, and Larkin get inside while Anita and Evan wait in the parking lot. Patrick is at the office with Ivan, guiding them through the communicators. And Mulligan is watching the whole show at home on TV. Mayor Watts gives his speech and leaves the public singing the new hymn to meet the alien legislators that are now arriving. He's using a different exit from the one Phoenix has been waiting at. So Daniel rushes after him and distracts him with chit-chat to give Raphael time to arrive and put the explosive on Watts' shoulder. When he finally comes closer to the legislators, the bomb goes off. Patrick sees Watts' tracker disappear from the screen and gives another coin to the kid so he can alert Michael to get ready. Mulligan sees the broadcast has been suspended and opens the box Priscilla has given him, finding a phone inside. At the stadium, people have started to run away in panic as more alien ships and the police arrive. Edward is shot, but Daniel manages to escape with Anita. Raphael has no choice but to escape on foot, but his path is blocked by one of the aliens, who chases him into a parking lot. Raphael hides inside a car and dodges the alien's claws until Daniel arrives and hits the creature with a fire extinguisher before removing the armor covering its face, leaving it to die while he and Raphael get away in Anita's car. In the meantime, Gabriel has come out of hiding to try to escape the city as well, but he finds George's boat has been lit on fire, so he retrieves the gun he hid earlier and puts on the blocking collar before leaving. Mulligan meets with Police Commissioner Eugene Ego, tells him to drop the case and let the aliens off-world hunters take care of it before boarding a special elevator to meet with the legislators underground. Afterward, he visits Priscilla to tell her he can't protect her anymore, but she replies she has faith in him. They have one last dance together before he leaves. The special forces, led by Mulligan, arrive at Phoenix's neighborhood and start raiding buildings. The residents throw away any possible clues and hide where they can, but most of them are captured and asked about the Drummond brothers. When Georges hits one of the officers, he's thrown on the ground to receive a beating, so Gabriel shows up to defend him and gets caught as well. Meanwhile, Ivan is at subway station waiting for the train, but he gives in and calls his wife to tell her he's doing this for the sake of their child. His wife passes the phone to Mulligan, who had been expecting his call, and asks him to tell them where his friends are going. Raphael arrives at the bus station, where he sees Daniel has already boarded a bus. Anita is having trouble getting inside in time because of long waiting lines, so she cuts in to pick up a kid and help him pass through the revolving door without arousing suspicion. And Raphael board a different bus from Daniel's, and they're both about to leave when suddenly power goes out, indicating the alien hunters are here. As Mulligan arrives at the station as well, Daniel is captured by the hunters. Anita leaves her seat to help him, but Raphael drags her back before the hunters can see her. She has no choice but to watch how Daniel swallows his pill and dies on the floor of the station. Claiming this isn't over, she decides to try again. She gets off her seat and jumps on the alien, who vaporizes her on the spot. Raphael uses this distraction to jump on the hunter as well, and he's thrown out of the bus, where he gets ready to also swallow his pill, but Mulligan shoots him and captures him before he can kill himself at the precinct. Mulligan interrogates Gabriel, who asks for a lawyer. Mulligan points out those days are behind them and that he didn't need a warrant to burn the boat either. Gabriel still refuses to work for him, so to convince him, Mulligan takes him to see Raphael, who has been chained up and beaten. He asks Gabriel not to accept to work for Mulligan because he's already dead anyway, but Mulligan promises Gabriel that he'll make sure Raphael stay alive if he accepts the job, so Gabriel does. Now that the police roundups are over, Gabriel is Mulligan's only connection to Phoenix, so his job will be to deliver a message to them. Gabriel is given the newspaper Ad Mulligan had circled with a red marker earlier and is told to take it to the place he'd usually visit when making deliveries. Gabriel goes to see Rawl, and the police track his bug while he's taken away in the same van as last time, watching the city descending into chaos on the way. Rawl drops Gabriel at Patrick's office and is threatened by the kid with a gun, but mentioning Raphael gets him out of it. Patrick is skeptical of his presence, but he accepts to help when he sees the newspaper clip and takes him to see Charles in the same abandoned building. Charles recognizes Gabriel as a student he used to have and accepts to take him to see number 1. Since they're supposed to carry their orders until the very end, Charles takes Gabriel to Priscilla's brothel, and as soon as he steps inside, the police go after him. When Gabriel makes it to Priscilla's room, he's surprised to hear she knows his name. But there isn't time to talk. The cops break into the room and shoot Priscilla on the spot as Gabriel leaves the building. Mulligan and Kermode arrive at the crime scene, and Mulligan lies when Kermode asks him if he knows this place, saying he doesn't. While Mulligan covers Priscilla with a blanket, Kermode notices various details that don't make sense. Her gun was empty, and she kept history books in a room used just for paid intimacy. When Mulligan points out there is only one picture on the wall, Kermode removes it and finds a microphone with a wire that he starts ripping off the wallpaper and following it until he finds a hidden room behind a closet. Inside there is a computer, a recorder, and a pile of cassettes. The setup belonged to number 1 Aka Priscilla, not the police. A couple of hours later, Mulligan reports to the governors and the legislators, who will be asking him questions through interpreters that are connected to the closed zone Phoenix group that they found on the computer, proving a national network and detailing the names and jobs of each member, whom Priscilla would send the information to after recording it in her room. Charles was in charge of communications. Patrick worked on operations and used to be a Marine. Rawl had materials and transport. Ivan was the one that hacked into the police's surveillance, and Harrison was a medical student that developed the method to remove the bugs. But now that they've disposed of their number 1, all these rebels have killed themselves before they could be captured too, so Mulligan declares the Chicago network neutralized. The aliens ask more about Priscilla. Mulligan tells them she used to be a teacher and she's been off the grid for 9 years. She became a prostitute in order to have access to intel. She would groom politicians and convince them to divulge classified information, and Mulligan plays a tape to prove it. There are many governors' voices in the recording, but most importantly, Commissioner Ego is there as well, passing information to the rebels unknowingly. Ego leaves the room in shame, and when Mulligan points out their chain of command had been compromised, the aliens declare him acting commissioner and order him to go down to the closed zone. Surprisingly, Raphael is allowed to live, but he's deported off-planet, and Gabriel watches the alien ship take him away with clear hurt in his eyes. Mulligan finds him and makes him get in the car, but when he points out Raphael is at least alive, Gabriel says everything has been pointless because the plan failed. However, Mulligan tells him perhaps the plan was to fail before and gives him the memory card of the phone Priscilla had handed him in that little box before dismissing him. Gabriel sneaks the card into his workplace by hiding it in his mouth and puts it in the machine to review its contents. He finds a video of his baby shower, where his parents are spending time with most of the members of Phoenix. Mulligan is there too, and he's introduced to a co-worker of Gabriel's mom's, who turns out to be Priscilla. The recording ends with Mulligan telling Gabriel Todd he has a big family and that the future is his, and Gabriel takes it as inspiration to carry the torch of Phoenix. But first, he deletes the video instead of uploading it to the database and destroys the memory card. The police throw Mulligan a party to congratulate him for his promotion, but he leaves early, not being in the mood to celebrate. Moments later, he goes through the standard procedure to be admitted into the closed zone after being disinfected and given a mask. Mulligan enters the elevator as the invisible substance of the powerful alien explosive envelops him, indicating he is part of Phoenix and that the whole plan had failed on purpose so he could have access to the legislators and deliver a fatal blow right on their faces. The closed zone in Chicago is successfully destroyed, and this inspires other resistance strikes and protests to break out in major cities all over the world, because like Raphael had told Gabriel, if you light a match, you ignite a war. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so that you cannot miss future videos like this. Thanks for watching.